I'm from the Netherlands and I've been to 26 states so far in the US, but I've never been to Canada before. And so in this video, we're gonna look at people experiencing Canadian culture shocks so that we or I can get a feel for what Canada might be like in the eyes of these people. So let's just go ahead and jump right in.
Time we think we've adjusted to our new life in Canada, something comes along and blows our mind. First up, the produce. Everything here is massive. Then there's the bin lorry. It literally picks up your wheelie bin with a claw from the roadside. The next one's genius. Bags of older bananas sold specifically for banana bread. Having an indoor cat is totally normal, which makes sense with all the wildlife. And the temporary traffic lights have cute little barriers that lift up and down. I'm not sure I'll ever get used to this one. The shopping trolleys steer from the rear. Car parks are mostly free. We've only paid for parking 3 times since moving here. And finally, those public toilet door gaps. Yeah, we're still traumatized.
That was a lot of information in a short time, so I'm going to do my best to touch on the things being said. But so first of all, the public restroom door gaps. Apparently that's the same as in the US then, because they definitely have those in the US, not in the Netherlands and here in Southeast Asia. I don't think I've seen them either, from my experience at least. But that was a real culture shock when I went to the US as well. I was like, can't people see me when I'm in here? And I guess because it's normal there, it's like no one is gonna like look or something, or it's just the way it is. But yeah, if you're not used to it, it's a little bit tricky. Like, I feel like I'm exposed, but really you can't really see that much. It still feels a little bit weird and exposing. Also, that banana bread thing is genius. I've never heard of that before, of that being done anywhere else. Maybe it is, but that's a really smart way to make use of older bananas. Me and my boyfriend usually look for older bananas because we like to freeze our bananas to eat as kind of like healthy ice cream to us. You just peel the peels off, of course, and then put them on a plate in the freezer. It's super easy. You just take one out when you want to have a little snack, and it just elevates it. So we're the types to look for those sweet bananas. But that's really smart. Now, those super big veggies, I hadn't seen that before watching this either. That's crazy. I wonder what makes them this big. Do they put stuff in there, like chemicals or something, to make them bigger like that? Because I know when I was in the US, I was already kind of shocked how big some fruits were as well, especially the grapes. Is one thing I noticed. And then the last thing I wanted to point out here and react to is this cart, because I thought it was normal that you have the rear wheel steering. Even when I went to the US, my boyfriend had to point it out to me that the carts didn't have that. I didn't even notice it while we were just in the supermarket. But then he pointed it out and I was like, wait, yeah, that's really strange. Because in the Netherlands, we have that. And so it's never been a thing that I thought about, because it's such a normal thing. And when you just go grocery shopping, you don't think about these things unless you go somewhere else and you notice it's different. So yeah, that was a huge shock to me that it's not like that everywhere else.
Since moving to Vancouver, Canada. Number 1, how little radiators there are over here. Not to say there's no radiators, but I just haven't seen a lot and I'm used to it. Number 2, being asked to donate at a self-checkout till. Such a cool initiative, never seen it before, never have the money. Number 3, Canadian McDonald's doesn't have any vegetarian options. They don't have a veggie wrap, they don't have a veggie burger or a plant-based burger, there's nothing. Number 4, 4, actual basements. And the basements over here can be rented out as rooms, I've seen as well, which is crazy. Never actually seen a basement before now. Number 5 has been talked about a lot, but celebrities and ads over here is crazy. I was listening to Spotify and Will Arnett popped up talking about something, and also Lindsay Lohan. Pretty cool. Lastly, the phone plans over here. Phone plans are definitely the biggest adjustment.
Okay, so first of all, no radiators. Wonder why. I thought it gets quite cold in Canada, depending on maybe where you're from. Also, yeah, maybe in certain parts of Canada, it is more normal to have radiators, but let me know if you know why in some places there might not be radiators. Then the being asked to donate thing at the self-checkout, that's not a thing in the Netherlands as far as I have seen, but it is a thing when you, so if you're not from the Netherlands, we have a thing where your empty bottles and cans, or yeah, bottles mostly, you can return them in the store and you get money back from it. But you can also, with that, choose to donate it to something. So, but I didn't know that was a thing either. I wonder if that would be beneficial to the stores in terms of a tax break or something like that. So if it would be better if you wanted to donate to just do that on your own, let me know. And that basements can be rented. I didn't know that either, but honestly, that's smart, because if you have a housing crisis and you can then just rent a basement from someone, like it might not be your number one option if you had all the money in the world, but if you don't have that much money and maybe it's cheaper to rent a basement from someone, I could see how that would be a beneficial option for both the person who wants to rent it and the person who rents it out to you. So I think that's actually a smart thing to do. And lastly, I wonder why the McDonald's doesn't seem to have vegetarian options. Is veganism or being vegetarian just not really a big thing in Canada in general? Or what are your thoughts about that?
I'm going to tell you some culture shocks that I've experienced as a Filipino living here in Canada. And if you're a newcomer here in Canada, I'll tell you something at the end so you can avoid getting culture shock. Number 1, of course, Canadians say sorry every time. I don't know why, but even if you're the one who bumped into them, or even if you're the one who actually made the mistake, they're still going to apologize to you. In the Philippines, no. Another one is prices before taxes. Like if you go to a store, it's $1 until it's $1 and something at the end. In the Philippines, everything is set. Taxes are included in the total price. Canada, no. You go figure it out depending on your province. Another major thing is when crossing streets, I think roads here in Canada are very pedestrian friendly. Cars will stop. In the Philippines, that's a struggle. Lastly, their obsession with Tim Hortons. People are obsessed with Tim Hortons, but then if you ask them if they love Tim Hortons, they're gonna say no. But I think it's more of like the sense of nationalism that comes with it. We don't have that in the Philippines. We don't have like a brand that really represents our nation. But here in Canada, they have Tim's for that. If you say Tim Hortons, everyone would say, oh, Canada.
Wait, am I being dumb, or what are Tim Hortons? I've never heard of Tim Hortons before, so I guess that's a Canadian brand that people are really prideful of. Is that how you say it in English? They have pride in. Never heard of it, but now I'm gonna look it up and see what the hype is about. So about the crossing the street thing, I can confirm, or at least from my experience in Thailand and Vietnam, that's a real thing here in Asia. That was a big culture shock for me as well when I came here. Was, yeah, you want to cross the road, but you just kind of have to go for it when there might still be people crossing the road, or by car or by scooter. You just kind of have to go for it because no one is going to stop. And so you can't really wait until there's no one left either, because usually the streets are very busy, especially when you're in the city. So there's no waiting until it's quiet. You just kind of have to go for it and hope that people don't crash into you, but usually they do just go around you, and it's actually quite magnificent how they seem to just go around everyone, as like you're in a game and you're just going around everyone. And sometimes I'm like, I really thought that was gonna be an accident, and then luckily it never actually happened. But that was crazy to me, coming from the Netherlands as well, where not everyone, but the norm is that people stop. And apparently the taxes are kind of the same as in the US then, where they are not included in the price. And after, or when you get to checkout, it will be added. That was also a big culture shock for me when I went to the US, that I had to keep reminding myself that no, that wasn't actually the price yet. And they had to account for the taxes, but you never really knew unless you really did the math for every single thing, what the price would end up being. So that was definitely different for me as well. And apparently that's the same in Canada then. But from my experience, at least every Canadian that I've met so far, and that weren't that many people, so take this with a grain of salt, but my experience with Canadians is that they tend to be very nice, and like you said, very polite in general, and willing to talk to you, and not in a just small talk for the sake of trying to be nice, but you can tell that they don't actually want to talk to you. The people I talked to actually seemed genuinely interested, and that was a very nice thing to experience.
Culture shocks I've had in Canada as a Canadian coming back to Canada after a year of traveling and backpacking. First is that people drive everywhere, and unless you're living in like the downtown city center, even then in some cities people drive a lot. Whether you're going to the grocery store or just going a short distance down the street, people will drive. There's a strong commuting culture. People commute a long distance. And if you're traveling, the default is by car for sure. Next is how much people talk about the weather. This one is a Canadian stereotype that is actually true. It is like Canadian custom to ask about the weather, share how you're feeling about the weather. I at first was thinking, why do I care? But I've been reminded how quickly Canadian weather changes. And maybe that's why we talk about it so much. It's how we connect. How many chain restaurants and like chain cafes I've seen. We were traveling in the Balkans and in areas of Southeast Asia where that was a little less common to see, but coming back, it's like bombarding how many there are everywhere. The hugely massive distance between everything between towns and across towns. In some cases in Canada, you can drive for like an hour and not hit the next town over even. Another stereotype that Canadians totally live up to is how friendly people really are. People will talk to you in line and be totally genuine about it. And people will hold the door open for you even if you're not that close. I've had to get used to that because you're like running, so they don't hold the door open that long. Also, the tipping culture here in Canada, in many places it is expected you tip. If you go out to eat, a tip of 15 or 20% or more is expected. And even in places like cafes and fast food restaurants, there will be a tip option off them. It's way more customary.
From this video and all the things that were mentioned from different people throughout this video, it seems like there's some similarities between the US and Canada. I don't mean to just compare and make it seem like it's the same as the US, but I'm just trying to see and learn about Canada and see what is similar and what is different. But yeah, I'm simply curious. I want to learn about these different places. So if you have any other perspectives and things that you might think are interesting to know, let me know in the comments down below.